Hi, everyone. It's another episode of the MiamiHal Real Estate Show. And today is not just a regular show. I consider this incredibly special, and we, all of us, incredibly lucky for my guest here today. It's Pedro Garcia. He is the property appraiser for Miami-Dade County, and he has a lot to say. When the real estate market changes, his office has to pay attention to that, adjust with it. And so we're going to take half an hour to learn from you, get your knowledge, and understand from your perspective what's happening at the county level.
Thank you, Hal, for inviting me.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a pleasure to be here.
You know, I've had the luck of meeting with you a couple of times, one for a business association, another one just randomly bumping into you. And you are a very approachable person.
Thank you.
And I think the subject of property taxes isn't so approachable for many people. So it's wonderful that, you know, we can have this type of discussion. And so I think that where we should start is most people that are watching are going to be talking about their homes. And once a year they get a bill that says property taxes, you owe this.
From the tax collector, not from me.
Understood. So we're not gonna
Okay.
slings and arrows are not in your direction. However, your office does try to figure out and calculate the value of each and every home and business location. And so I want to understand from your perspective, how do you calculate that? Because people really feel it's a mystery. My house is worth this in the open market, but not that in a property tax evaluation.
Most of the people believe we take it from the hat, but it's not that way. We use the market value.
Okay.
And when we do the assessment, we do it on a mile. So we look for comparable properties, similar properties. If it's a two-story, we look for two stories. If it's a one-story, we look for one story. It's a three-bedroom, two baths, or a four-bedroom. We try to be as comparable as possible. Some of them, they have pools, some of those doesn't have it. So we have to be very careful when we establish which one is the comparables we're going to be using on those properties. But remember one thing in particular, we have the homestead exemption. So most of the owners, we have about 430,000 of the owners in Miami-Dade County that they have homestead. So that property will not increase any higher than at 3%.
3% per year.
3% per year. But it's very strange to go 3%. Last year, for example, we got a 1.8, and this year we have a 2.1 increase on the assessed value. So it's not that high the impact to the owners of those properties. They are well protected. And at the same time, they have what we call in the save our home, so they can save money. They're going to be used if anytime they're going to change houses, if they're going to trade to another house or sell to another house or buy another house, they can use what we call an affordability. So they can take that. I'm sorry.
No problem.
They can take the market value, the difference between the market value and the assessed value, that particular difference up to $500,000, the people can deduct from the purchase of the next property.
And that involves some math, right? Not very difficult math, but there's math.
They do because if you go into a higher property, you're going to take the 100%.
Right.
But if you go to a lower property, let's say you're going to change from a home to a condo, you will take 60% of that. So if you have a $200,000 save our home, you're going to take $120,000 deduction on the purchase of your condo.
So again, math, and math is hard for most people.
Yes.
So one of the things that I know, and I'm hoping you will share with our audience, is there's a tool online to do this, right?
Of course.
So tell us about the tool and how simple it is.
The tool is very simple, but I'm going to tell you an easiest way to do it. Call our office. I will tell you exactly what will be the amount that you can port.
Okay.
That will make it a lot easier because you have no idea if you're going to do a higher property or a lower property. So our office, they will answer. And by the way, we don't have any machines that tell you go to number 6 or go to number 7, it's going to be a person answering that phone.
That's incredible. And I
It
didn't
is.
know that. I knew there was an online tool, but you're now offering to anybody watching this and
Anybody.
anybody in the county to simply
Anybody in the
call the
county.
office and get that math done for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
On the portability, normally we do that. Or if they want to apply us on the line, when they apply for homestead and they apply for portability, they will do it and they will let them know exactly how much is the deduction due to portability.
Let's go back to the fact that an appraisal or evaluation for tax purposes seems to be very different than an appraiser coming out to a home during a home sale and producing an appraisal at that point. And I'd love for you to share with our audience
Okay.
why there's such a big
It's
difference.
a big difference. Let me tell
Yes.
you, I spent 45 years of my life. I'm an estate certified general real estate appraisal. I'm also a real estate broker for 45 years. But the difference is in a mass appraisal. When we do mass appraisal, we have to look for different areas on miles.
And you had mentioned miles, so
I'm sorry.
I'm going to just interject a little bit here.
Yeah.
If I'm selling a home in Pinecrest
Correct.
and I'm north of 112th Street, I, as an agent, understand that there are zones within Pinecrest, and the appraised homes or the comparable homes should be used within that subzone of Pinecrest.
That's correct.
That's not how it's done at a mass level. So talk to us about those miles.
It is does because they're going to stick to the market in Pinecrest.
But you're also talking about miles and mass appraisal.
Yes,
So.
when we're talking about, for example, areas in Westchester or areas in Hialeah, areas in the city of Miami, so we have to go by the mass appraisal.
Okay.
But when we're talking about, we use mass appraisal also in Pinecrest or any other areas, but we're going to try to stick to that particular area. Because when we're talking about the market on the properties, we're talking about mansions.
Yes.
And maybe 7 blocks away from there is only residence properties, normal
Yeah.
residential properties.
Townhouses and
Right.
under 2,000 square feet homes. Yeah.
So we have to look for a square footage, what is the dimensions of those properties, so we can use them as a comparable.
Okay. So you do this mass appraisal process, and you and I were talking just before we came on air about something that you asked and fought for. You come up with a number, but that's not what people are being assessed with. Is that correct?
That's correct. What we're talking about is cost of sale.
Okay.
On the cost of sale, when we established before, I was a master for the my history for the Value Adjustment Board for 10 years before I was elected. And we have the problem there that all the time they have to bring the closing statements to see if the property, the cost was 6% or 7% or 10% or 11%.
The cost
And it was
being a
really, the
combination.
cost of sale was commissions from the realtors, the attorney's fees, and whatever they have to pay for the mortgage. So there was really a great problem because there was not a normal numbers. So in my idea, when I discussed it with the Broward County, they were using a number, a 10% number. Orlando was using a 9% number. And I said, why we don't use a number that will be realistic for everybody? Because if you have a commission and you have a cost of sale will be higher than a 10%.
Sure.
So I went to the Department of Revenue, did the presentation to them. Everybody told me that I was crazy, that we're never going to get 15%
Oh, did
cost
you
of
just say
sale.
15%?
15%
Okay, so
cost of sale.
You went and fought for 15% cost of sale as opposed to other areas that you just mentioned at
And
10 and 9%.
they told me, no problem.
They
So
did.
they
Wait a minute.
agreed perfect with me. They realized that I was right. Because when you're talking about a 7.5% commission and the X amount of money you're going to have to pay to the attorneys,
Right.
if you have to pay any fees for the mortgage,
Closing costs themselves are always
closing
involved.
costs,
Yeah.
I mean, you will definitely will be very close to those numbers. Maybe you sell it by yourself and you don't use a realtor and you don't use an attorney, okay, you're going to save them money. But not all the people will do that.
So I'm going to applaud you, and I'm going to applaud the Department of Revenue,
Yes,
who by
applaud
name,
them.
their job is to get more revenue, right? And yet they saw the same picture that you did and agreed with you. And so the entire Miami-Dade County is now looking at a 15% reduction.
On any purchase of the property. So if you buy a $400,000 house, you're going to have a $60,000 reduction on that particular house,
Not too
and you
shabby.
start paying taxes on 340. Let me tell you what my concept was. Not only on residential property, because we're talking about properties that are not that expensive. But when we are talking about commercial properties, and we're talking about a shopping center, for example, a $10 million shopping center that a company purchased, those people have to come in, do the administration,
Hmm.
start renting most of that property. Maybe they have a lot of vacancy in there. So with that, we give them a 15% reduction on the $10 million, and that gives them a break to start producing that particular property start producing money. And that was the main idea, and also for the people to motivate people from the north, from the northeast, to start spending millions of dollars on properties in Miami-Dade County, like we see today that they are doing.
That's the invisible part of what you do. I think you've just touched upon it, that most homeowners don't get. They look at their bill and they say, this is what I owe. And they don't understand that you're one of the larger cogs in the overall system that's generating wealth for this area of South Florida, right?
We have to, that was a great motivation to the people because, I mean, when the people realize, hey, if I buy a $2 million property in Miami-Dade County, I'm going to have a $300,000 reduction. But those people are going to start paying money in Miami-Dade County to provide that money for all the services that Dade County provide. And at the same time, we're going to make you and me and everybody that's listening to pay less taxes because those taxes are helping the amount of money that the government need for their budget.
Got it. So I meant to address this at the beginning of the program. You are dressed like a consummate businessman, and you look great. And normally I do not dress in short sleeve.
Okay.
Here's the reason why. I actually had to rush here because the market is so hot.
Okay.
Okay. And I really felt that I would have time to go and put on appropriate clothing. I didn't. So I'm here to do this.
This is my uniform for every single day.
And I used to do that, and I'm very happy I don't have to do that. But this is a little underdressed. But my point is, I and the rest of the industry are so busy because of low interest rates causing a frenzy and a very frothy market by many people's standards. So things are selling at much higher prices than they did pre-COVID. Year on year, we're double digits everywhere, and in some cases over 20% difference on pricing. This is a phenomenon that I haven't been through before.
And a very quick sales.
You're right.
My daughter is she's a realtor, and she's also has an estate certified general real estate appraisal, and she's still on the business. And the other day we were talking about that she have two listings that she sold the same day.
Well, if you have listings, you're gold as an agent right now. That's because there's no inventory. So
Right.
anything that comes on market, there's immediate attention for it. But my point is, if somebody, as an agent, I'm going to make up numbers here. I go out and I evaluate a house and I say, listen, I believe the house is worth $500,000. We're just going to use some round numbers. The market demand is so strong that if you put it on for, let's say, 525, giving it a little pad, and there's always some negotiation. And in the first day, a dozen people come to see the home, and somebody goes under contract because they absolutely have to have that because they've missed out on other things, and they put in an offer at 530 above my list price. And I really think the appraised value is somewhere around $500,000. And they end up getting an appraisal that meets the contract price. So we're at 530 on something that probably is worth 500. how does that enter into the long-term picture of how your office is going to do future appraisals?
Okay, we work on market, so we don't work in one specific cell. Remember, for example, I'm going to give you an idea. Wynwood.
Okay.
In Wynwood, we have practice that the people paying the same thing. They're paying $500 a square feet, or they're paying $2,000 square feet. What we try to do is establish a market value, a realistic market value, not a market value created by the rush on people buying and maybe making offer 50,000 above. No, no, we're going to be looking for those particular properties, and one sale will not make that much difference. So normally we don't take the highest sale or we don't take the lowest sale.
Somewhere in
We're
between.
going to be in between, and we're going to be working on those properties and see if the market agree with us. But remember one thing, every time we establish the value of all the properties, we have to send that information to the Department of Revenue. The Department of Revenue has their own appraisals.
Oh, so there's a check and balance.
Oh, yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay.
And they have to agree with us on the numbers that property that we established the fair market value of that property.
Okay. Well, let's take a little aside because I always tell buyers and sellers that my job is to get as close of an evaluation as I can to predict what an appraisal will be.
Mm-hmm.
And I also tell them every appraiser is trained the same way. Every appraiser is supposed to follow certain guidelines and they're educated to do so. But somebody coming out on a Monday and another person coming out on a Wednesday when the weather is awful and they had a disagreement with their spouse and the traffic was awful, it might skew a little bit, right? I mean, there's not going to be two appraisers that come out to the same house and give exactly the same.
No, never going to happen.
So you're talking about market value, and I'm talking as a real estate agent, I'm talking about market value, and these are two different markets. And that's
because you're talking about selling price, and we're talking about market.
Okay.
When you're talking about selling price, that's a different ballgame, because people were paying anything they want to. I don't know. And some of them
can't pay anything they want because.
But let me tell you, because this is what happened to me as a real estate appraisal. I was doing one time a big apartment building. We're talking about $5 million apartment building. When I finished my appraisal, that apartment building was worth for me $5,200,000. The people were buying that building for 6.5.
That's a nice spread.
So there was $1,300,000 difference in the building.
Right.
The bankers called me because that was his best client. Remember, the banker, everyone is his best client, but that one was his best client. So they called me and says, we have to have a meeting because we have a difference, 1,300,000, and I want the people to realize what's going on. And I believe it's something that you can fix. I says, well, that's my number. So I piled all my information. I brought it to that particular closing that we're going to have in there. And the first person I met was the attorney.
Mm-hmm.
And the attorney says, I like you as an appraiser because you have the fair value. That was the attorney for that gentleman. And the lady, the wife came to me and she says, I love that apartment that much.
She wants to overpay by 1.3.
I don't mind to my husband to pay the $1.3 million above your appraisal because I want that apartment. I says, lady,
when you got it, you can have it.
And they can do it. But normally they create that the appraisal is supposed to be conservative. We are not. We are realistic. But some people don't believe that we are realistic because we use the right numbers. And another thing that you will see difference on the appraisal's value, for example, on depreciation. Depreciation is a percentage that I believe your property was depreciated 5%.
Okay.
And maybe you believe that property is depreciated 10%.
always a larger number than you.
When we got these discussions and we have depreciation,
Hmm.
that will make a little bit of difference. But when you get two appraisals, you will see if you see a 5% difference, they are on the right numbers.
Okay.
Anything above, take a look.
Going back to something you said earlier,
Sure.
you do your mass appraisals, and then you have to do a check and balance with the Department of Revenue.
Right.
And so essentially, you're doing an appraisal, and they're doing an appraisal of the same property.
They don't tell us. They don't tell us which area. They normally do it on the commercial properties, on
You've
the
been
big
in,
properties.
you've been in office for how long?
Going to be 12 years.
Okay, so how often do you see large differences between the way that you evaluate property and the way the Department of Revenue evaluates? And have you had disagreements where you had to battle it
I
out to
can
get it
tell you
right?
this much. I've been certified for 12 years.
Okay,
Never a cancellation or a discussion with them. They maybe will tell us on this particular property, we see this difference and we discuss it. We discuss it with the appraisal because I can discuss it personally with them. It's a lot easier when you are a real estate appraisal. They believe you a little bit more.
how long of a process does it take for you to do this general appraising process and go through is it an annual cycle?
Yes, we
Okay.
start on January 1st, and we should have everything ready by May because we have to present to the commissioners and to the mayor on June 1st. We have to present all the numbers, the taxable value for so they can start getting ready for the budget.
Got it. So you're doing this at a mass level, and obviously there's checks and balances. You handed me some papers just before we got on air, and I want to go over one of them. It is the opportunity for people to come to ask for a reevaluation on an appraisal
Yes.
on their particular property.
Hmm.
How often are you seeing that, and how successful can a homeowner be? Since you seem to be doing this rather well in many people's eyes
but
for
we are
12
humans.
years.
We are humans. Remember
Okay,
that.
yeah,
So we
yeah,
make mistakes
yeah.
like anybody else. But the main idea to those people it will be to present comparables of those properties, conditions of the property. One of the things that the people have to realize, we are allowed to take a look at your property from outside.
Outside.
We are not allowed to go inside of your home or knock on your door and tell them we're going to inspect it. We're going to make it. If we need to do that, we're going to make an appointment with you so we can send somebody to inspect the property, maybe in dimensions or maybe the conditions that we see it. Of course, we take pictures of every home from the outside every 5 years. We have to do it by law
Hmm.
to inspect every single property in Miami-Dade County. We're talking about over 1 million properties.
You have a few people doing that. I probably
We
have.
have few people, and then you will see a truck with a lot of antennas and everything, and the joint it says Miami-Dade County Property Appraiser.
So you
And
do.
will
You
see
have mark
maybe
bands.
taking the
Okay.
pictures. Also, we have planes that fly every single year, so we can take a picture of your property from the north, from the south, from the east, and from the west, and also from the top.
There's no hiding from you.
And we can take dimensions of those property from the air.
Makes sense.
But inside of the property, maybe when we establish that we have a 95% condition in your property, no depreciation, only 5%, and maybe you can prove to us that you have damage on the roof, that you never changed the kitchen area, that you have the same windows that you have before. I mean, things that we have no way
Right.
to see it from the outside. And if they can prove that to us, hey,
Downward adjustment.
that will
But
definitely make an adjustment. We maybe tell you, hey, we want to verify this.
sure.
Most of the people, they don't like us to visit them. Even my friends don't invite me to their home.
You have a sense of humor about this all, and
It
I don't know if I would invite you to my home, but
is,
you're a
let me
nice
tell
man.
you.
Let me switch to something else because not specific to you, the position you're in now, but certainly the role you've played over the years. You're a general certified appraiser.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I know other general certified appraisers. And one of the things we've been discussing as an open topic is since the market is so hot and since so many appraisers have to get out and hustle today because the price that they're earning for their work is far less than it was several years ago.
Hmm.
And the process is a lender, a bank, says, we need this property appraised. We're under contract with a client. They cannot do it themselves. They have to hire an outside appraisal company, so there's
Correct.
independence. And then that company sends out one of their appraisers to do the work. They may or may not be familiar with the area, but you can imagine the stress that each of those appraisers are under because if they do not come up with the value of the contract, it cascades back to the bank where they're not going to produce a loan. So the general discussion that I've been having with a certified general appraiser is that they're under pressure to meet that contract price. And since we've had such an uptick and updraft in these prices, do you think we're realistic on our sale prices today?
Depending on the appraisal. In my book, I was looking for the fair value. I have too many argue with different banks. I've been the appraisal for many banks, but I never agree with them on the values that they were expecting. I will come out with my value, and if the value was agreeable with them, great. If not, get somebody else and do it. When they have the problem, for example, on people buying apartment buildings to make conversions to condos, in that particular time, I told like three or four of my banks that I will not do any appraisal for that because I knew that they're going to be a headache later on. And what happened when I was elected, we got the foreclosures, we got all those apartment buildings in trouble because they couldn't sell the condos. And there was normally my price was my value was the right value.
We have talked a lot about residential, and my time is actually running up, but I do not want to cut you short. Talk to me a little bit more about the commercial side of what you do, because there are people that rely on your office to help them understand what their tax bill is going to be each year, and that's important to our economy as well.
Of
So,
course. And let me tell you what I did with this pandemic. We have a lot of people on apartment buildings, commercial properties. They are not getting the rent. They are not collecting rent because there's a moratorium on that. And we did is on January 3rd, I sent, or we sent 30,000 letters to every one of them to requesting them to send me the information on what is the vacancy rate they have on their apartment buildings, how many rental laws they have, to provide me with all information because this year we're going to establish not a market value on apartment buildings, not a market value on commercial properties.
mm,
We're going to establish a pandemic value on those properties
wow.
because we have a lot of people in a lot of trouble that they have problems to pay their taxes, problems to pay their mortgage. So I want to get as much information for them. So we're going to establish a value of those properties according to the market for 2020.
2000. I'm going to applaud you and your office again for doing that, which again I wasn't aware of. I'm not. I don't own a piece of property for commercial purposes, but that really is going to be a savior in this county.
Definite is they're going to be a complete difference. Normally on property appraisals, commercial properties and apartment buildings, we use income approach, and we're going to use the income approach, but we're going to start deducting a lot of vacancies they have right now a lot of rental laws that they have right now, so we can establish. And I told them already, this is going to be for this year, 2020 only. We don't know it's
Sure.
2021 we're going to have the same problem, but at least in 2020 we know we
I
have it.
I have my mask, and I'm hoping not to use it. Right?
Me too.
Yeah.
But we have to find a solution for all the rentals, moratoriums, and those people who get paying the rent, and so they can pay the mortgage, they can pay the insurance companies, they can pay the taxes. And we have to be realistic, and that's the situation that we have today on those rental properties. They're in trouble.
Did we cover everything that you thought we should cover today?
Do you want to stay here for 2.5 hours more? I don't
I
mind.
love the fact that you're this approachable. I think for our audience, we've done a lot of work here. Remember, Pedro Garcia has said, if you have questions about portability, Save Our Homes, a way for you to move from one location to another, call his office directly. Outside of just having a hotline via this, actually not a hotline, outside of having a web resource, a tool to figure this out, you're saying, yeah, you know what, we're going to be able to help you no matter what. Just call our number.
Definitely. That we are there to help the people. We have on the seventh floor we have a reception area. You can come in, and we have property professionals there waiting to answer every one of those.
Okay.
If they don't have the answer, we will look for somebody that will have the answer for you.
Great. And for those of you out in the audience, I looked up, I did not see any questions, although we were covering things very fast and furious. So on demand, anybody that's watching this, Pedro and I will be looking at the on-demand questions, and we will both try to get back out there and answer your questions directly. But remember, he's already told you, use the phone number for the office. Somebody there will help you. And so with that, I'm going to thank you so much for coming
And
in.
I'm going to do something better than that. I'm
What's
going to
that?
give you my secretary number so they can
Look
call
right
and
in the
talk
camera
direct.
there and tell everybody.
Okay,
who
you
they
can
should
call
call.
me at 305-375-4155. That's my secretary. Her name is Patricia. Don't tell them I gave her name.
That's accessibility. And that's going to wrap the show today. It's Hal Feldman, MiamiHal, with the MiamiHal Real Estate Show. Next week is another great episode, but this week I applaud you. Thank you so much for coming in and educating us.
Thank you for
today.
inviting me, and thank you to give me the opportunity to explain to the people so many details. Call me every week. I will be here.
I may do that. Thanks again.